The medical bay of the Z-Carry frigate Healing Dawn pulsed like the inside of a living creature, every surface alive with faint energy flows. Its walls were translucent, grown from crystalline structures that hummed with a soft resonance, casting a silver lavender glow that reminded Sarah Chen of moonlight refracted through glass. There was no smell of antiseptic here, no hum of clunky machinery. Instead, the air felt charged, like standing beneath a quiet thunderstorm, alive with unseen. Power. Sarah lay on a biosuspension table, her breathing shallow and erratic. Her dark uniform was unfastened to expose patches of skin already marbled with a sickly gray pattern, spreading like ink through paper. Every heartbeat throbbed against the invisible poison coursing through her veins. She had survived 17 first contact missions, negotiated peace between species that thought humans were primitives, but now her body was betraying her in silence. She wanted to curse the Voron Collective for their smug smiles during the reception, but her tongue felt like lead. Dr. Lisa Keerin stood over her, a calm figure of alien precision. Her luminous purple skin shimmered faintly in complex patterns that shifted with each breath, a natural display of emotion her people were trained to control. Her silver eyes reflected every readout from the hovering medical panels, glowing softly as if they contained their own galaxies. Her expression was perfectly neutral, but Sarah caught the tension in the doctor's movements. Lisa's hands hovered over a holographic display, every gesture elegant, controlled. As she calculated the odds of survival and found them lacking, "The toxin is adapting," Lisa said, her voice melodic yet crisp, like music played on steel strings. "Its design is precise. It was meant for you." Sarah tried to grin, though her lips barely moved. "I didn't know I was important enough to get my own designer poison." Lisa tilted her head slightly. She had heard of human humor, but never understood its persistence in near-death scenarios. "Your cellular integrity is degrading. Current treatments have only an 8% chance of success. Less if the toxin mutates again." 8%? I've had worse odds. Sarah tried to shift, but a wave of pain slammed into her, pulling a strangled gasp from her throat. The Voron had smiled too much during the toast, she thought bitterly. She should have known. Lisa's fingers danced over the controls, but even as she executed the most advanced medical protocols of her species, she knew they were failing. The toxin wasn't just advanced, it was personal. It knew how to dismantle the fragile human structure molecule by molecule. She looked down at the woman on the table, this fragile yet stubborn being whose will to live radiated like a burning ember. Something inside Lisa shifted, a crack in the wall of detachment she had spent her entire life building. She turned her gaze toward the far side of the bay, where a crystalline chamber rested beneath layers of dust and disuse. The biosync chamber, a relic of a time when Z-Carry healers had fused their own life energy with patients, forming bonds so intense they had torn apart families, friendships, and entire communities. It was a practice buried by law and fear. No one dared use it. Lisa's fingers paused mid-air. Her heart pulsed faster as her thoughts tangled between duty and law. If she activated the chamber, she would violate the most sacred protocols of her people. Worse, biosync had never been attempted on another species. It could kill them both instantly. But as she looked at Sarah's failing vitals, at the woman's faint smile that somehow still carried defiance, she felt something she had never felt before. The desire to save someone not just because it was her duty, but because she could not bear to lose her. Her assistant's voice broke through the hum of the bay. "Doctor, her neural activity is collapsing. She will not last 3 minutes." Lisa's silver eyes locked on Sarah. For a moment, neither moved. Then Lisa whispered, almost to herself, "Don't move." Her hands reached for the clasps on her medical armor. the polished plates that separated her from the chaos of emotion. And pain? They hissed softly as she disengaged them, revealing beneath a faint glow the bioregulator embedded in her chest like a second heart. Sarah's breath hitched as she watched, half-dazed. "You're taking your armor off? This isn't that kind of date." Lisa ignored the comment, though a flicker of color rippled across her skin, betraying tension. She looked once more at the Forbidden's chamber, her expression a silent decision made. She would risk it all. "Prepare the biosync protocol," Lisa ordered sharply. "We do this, or she dies." And for the first time in her career, Lisa Keerin felt the heavy, terrifying weight of caring too much. The hum of the Healing Dawn's medical bay had shifted, deepening into a sound Sarah could only describe as a pulse-low, resonant, alive. She wasn't sure if it was the ship's systems or her own weakening heartbeat echoing through her skull. The pain had sharpened from a dull throb into jagged edges, each one slicing her awareness into fragments. Somewhere through the haze, she saw Lisa Keerin standing perfectly still, her luminous skin flickering in a chaotic pattern that Sarah's mind strangely understood as fear. Not panic Lisa's kind didn't panic, but the kind of fear that Comey's from knowing every rational solution has failed. Lisa's fingers hovered above, the bioregulator embedded in her chest. This device, this shield, wasn't just part of her medical equipment. It was the anchor that kept her from drowning in the emotions of others. Z-Carry healers were born with dangerous levels of empathic perception. Without the bioregulators, filtering fields, they would feel the pain, fear, and joy of every patient like a tidal wave smashing through their own mind. Lisa had spent decades learning to work with her hands steady and her heart sealed away. Now, to save this human, she was about to rip that seal apart. "Doctor?" The assistant's voice was a tremor of unease. "You can't possibly be thinking. Leave us," Lisa said. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like a scalpel. Her silver eyes flashed, and the assistant backed away, shaken by the sharp authority in her tone. The bay's walls pulsed faintly, reacting to the doctor's heightened emotional state. Sarah blinked, trying to focus. "Hey, Doc." Her voice was rough, strained. "You're staring at me like I'm already gone." "You're not gone," Lisa replied, moving closer to the table. Her melodic tone was steadier than she felt, but Sarah, through some strange instinct, could sense the tremor beneath. "Not if I can stop it." Sarah tried to laugh but coughed instead, tasting iron. "Guess you're running out of tricks, huh? Should I start making my peace with the universe?" "No." Lisa's voice was so firm that Sarah flinched. "You don't get to give up." "Not while I still have options." Sarah frowned. "Options? Like what?" "Some miracle alien cure you've been hiding up your sleeve?" Lisa paused. The biosync chamber sat in the corner of the bay, dormant. Its crystalline surface glowed faintly as though it recognized her attention. She felt her chest tighten, not from fear of failure but from something far worse, the fear of succeeding and what it would mean. The biosync was not a treatment. It was a bond, a merging of essence. In her culture, it was forbidden for a reason. It could create attachment so strong they consumed the healer's life. To do this with an alien? Unthinkable. Deadly. Lisa's voice lowered, almost a whisper, as if speaking to herself. "There is one way." Sarah caught it. Even with the fog in her brain, she recognized that tone. "That's the sound of a terrible idea." Lisa met her eyes. "Terrible," she admitted. "But it's the only thing that will save you." Sarah didn't ask what it was, maybe because she didn't want to hear the answer. Instead, she tried to read Lisa's face, the patterns of glowing purple shifting across her skin like living ink. For the first time, she thought she saw something behind the doctor's perfect detachment, hesitation. And beneath that, something that felt strangely like care. "Do it," Sarah whispered. Her voice cracked, but there was no doubt in her tone. If you think you can save me, just do it. Lisa froze. 1,000 objections burned in her mind. This isn't your decision, she thought. This isn't even legal. But the dying human's brown eyes, so stubborn, so alive, met her gaze with a challenge. And Lisa, who had spent her life following rules, felt something deep within her break. She unlatched the clasps on her chest plate. The metallic plates of her medical armor disengaged with a hiss, revealing the faintly glowing regulator underneath. Her skin pulsed with luminous streaks of color, her emotions unfiltered for the first time in years. The raw intensity of it was dizzying, like opening a door to a storm. The assistant gasped. Doctor, the biosync was outlawed. Leave, Lisa ordered again, sharper this time. Seal the bay. The assistant hesitated, then fled, the doors closing with a soft chime. Now it was just Lisa, Sarah, and the low hum of the ship. Sarah forced a smile, though her vision blurred. You're really taking off your armor. This isn't that kind of date, you know? Lisa almost smiled, but she was too focused. Quiet. Don't move. Her fingers pressed against the bioregulator, pulling it free from her chest. It came loose with a ripple of energy that made her gasp. For the first time, she felt Sarah's pain flood through her, burning, raw, overwhelming. She staggered for a moment, clutching the device in her trembling hand. Whoa, Sarah whispered, her own heart stuttering. What are you? Saving you, Lisa said. She stepped closer, pressing her glowing hands against Sarah's chest, directly over her failing heart. Energy crackled between them like lightning. Stay with me. Sarah gasped as a wave of warmth surged through her body, drowning the cold poison in light. It was as though her soul was being pulled into another current, merging with Lisa's presence. For a heartbeat, she saw through Lisa's eyes, saw herself on the table, fragile and dying, yet stubbornly alive. Then everything went white. Sarah drifted in a place that wasn't entirely real. It was as if the universe had folded in on itself, leaving her suspended in a space where time moved like liquid and every thought rippled across an unseen surface. She felt warmth of presence, alien yet soothing, pressing against the edges of her mind. It wasn't a voice, but she somehow knew it was Lisa. The Z-Carry doctor's consciousness flickered like a violet flame in the darkness, her emotions radiating in waves, determination, fear, and something softer that Sarah couldn't quite name. When Sarah's eyes snapped open, the first thing she noticed was clarity. Every sound in the medical bay had a sharpness she had never experienced before: the hum of the crystal walls, the faint vibrations of the ship's engines, even the distant murmurs of crew members 2 corridors away. Her chest rose in a steady rhythm, the pain gone as if it had been burned away. But the strangest thing of all was the presence she could still feel, lingering like a warm current beneath her own thoughts. Lisa stood nearby, her silver eyes focused on the diagnostic panels, but Sarah didn't need to look at her to know how she felt. Fear, sharp and icy, clung to the doctor's thoughts, a reaction to something beyond Sarah's understanding. Sarah frowned. How did she know that? It wasn't like reading someone's face. It was deeper, as though Lisa's emotions were quietly bleeding into her mind. Did we win? Sarah's voice was hoarse, but her attempt at humor cut through the silence. Lisa turned, her purple skin flickering in a pattern that Sarah instinctively recognized as relief mixed with exhaustion. You survived, Lisa said softly, though her tone carried an undertone of hesitation. But the procedure, it worked in ways I did not predict. Sarah tried to sit up, and every movement felt unnaturally fluid, like her body had been fine-tuned. She blinked at her own hands. They looked the same, yet every detail was sharper, every sensation amplified. She could feel the energy running through her veins like threads of light. What did you do to me?" Sarah asked, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. Lisa hesitated, her gaze lowering for a moment before answering. "I performed a biosync," she admitted, her voice quiet, as if saying the words made them heavier. "It is forbidden among my people. It creates a link, a connection between life forces, sharing energy, and other things." Sarah tilted her head. "Other things?" She could feel the way Lisa's skin shifted to a brighter shade of purple embarrassment. The realization struck her like a jolt of static. "Wait, are you feeling embarrassed right now? How do I even know that?" Lisa's eyes widened. The connection may have extended beyond bioenergy regulation. "You're reading my emotional resonance." Sarah stared at her for a moment, then let out a soft laugh. "So, you saved my life and accidentally plugged me into your feelings like some kind of interspecies Wi-Fi? That's new." Lisa looked away, clearly flustered. "The bond should fade. It always fades between our own kind after several hours, but—" She trailed off and Sarah caught the uncertainty rippling through her. "But you're not sure," Sarah said quietly, finishing the thought. "Because I'm human. And no one's ever tried this before." Lisa met her gaze again, silver eyes reflecting the glow of the crystalline walls. "If the connection persists, it could become permanent, dangerous even. Our minds were never meant to cross like this." Sarah leaned back against the table, absorbing that. She wasn't panicking, if anything, she felt strangely calm. Maybe it was because of Lisa's presence in her mind. Or maybe because after nearly dying, this didn't seem like the worst outcome. "Permanent, huh? Guess you and I are going to get to know each other really well." "You don't understand," Lisa said, her tone tightening. "The biosync bond is intimate. It does not just share emotions. Over time, it can blur the boundaries between individuals. If my superiors discover what I've done, they will see this as a violation of every ethical rule my people hold." Sarah's sharp instincts kicked in. "And if they find out, what happens to you?" "I will lose my medical license. I could be exiled, possibly even subjected to psychological purging to erase any attachments." Lisa's last word trembled slightly, and Sarah felt a sting of fear radiate from her through their connection. Sarah pushed herself off the table, her legs steady for the first time since the poisoning. She crossed the short distance between them, feeling the odd ripple of energy when they were close, like her body wanted to sink to Lisa's presence. "You risked all that for me," she said softly. "So, if there's fallout, we handle it together. You're not taking all that heat alone." Lisa's skin flickered with a strange, warm shade of purple, something Sarah was learning to recognize as gratitude. "You would protect me, even though you barely know me?" Sarah gave her a lopsided grin. "Dr. Keerin, you ripped off your armor and nearly killed yourself to save me. I think that puts us past the barely know each other stage." Before Lisa could reply, the medical bay's chime rang sharply, cutting through their moment. A crisp voice filled the room. "Dr. Keerin, report to the command bridge immediately. Medical Command has detected anomalous energy signatures during the human's treatment." Sarah felt Lisa's fear spike like a surge of static through her own chest. Whatever they had just done, whatever they had become, was about to be questioned. And the thought of anyone pulling them apart felt like a threat Sarah couldn't tolerate. "Guess we're not going to have time for small talk," Sarah murmured, sliding off the table completely. "Come on, Doc. Let's see how much trouble we're in." The command bridge of the Healing Dawn looked less like a room and more like a cathedral built from light and living crystal. Translucent walls arched high above, faint veins of luminescent energy pulsing within them as if the ship itself were alive and breathing. Every surface curved with a natural elegance that made human starships seem crude by comparison. Sarah Chen stepped onto the bridge with Dr. Lisa Keerin beside her, and the sensation was immediate. dozens of silver and violet. Eyes fixed on her, silently weighing her presence. Her boots clicked on the smooth floor, a small sound swallowed by the soft hum of the bridge. Sarah's instincts, sharpened years of military training, told her this wasn't a casual summons. This was scrutiny. The alien crew was tense, their bioluminescent skin patterns shifting in a language she didn't yet understand but could feel. Through her connection with Lisa, nervousness, curiosity, distrust. Lisa's posture was straight and precise, her expression perfectly neutral, but Sarah felt the tremors of unease radiating from her through the psychic bond. The tension burned, like static between them. If the crew detected even a hint of what they'd done, if they guessed that Lisa had violated the Z-Carry's most sacred medical law, both of them were finished. The ship's captain, Keerin, stood at the far end of the bridge. He was taller than Lisa, his skin a deep indigo that shimmered with authority and age. His silver eyes swept over Sarah as though dissecting every detail of her existence. "Lieutenant Commander Chen," he said, his voice deep and resonant, "we are honored by your survival. Few withstand the toxins of the Voron Collective." "Honored's not the word I'd use," Sarah muttered under her breath. Then louder, she added, "But I appreciate the sentiment. Though I'm guessing this isn't a welcome-back party." The captain's gaze shifted to Lisa. "Dr. Keerin, Medical Command detected an anomalous energy signature during the human's treatment. It exceeded acceptable levels for bioenergy expenditure." "Explain." Sarah's heart skipped. Lisa's voice, however, was calm and clinical. The toxin was adaptive. Conventional treatments failed. I employed all available medical resources to stabilize her physiology. "All available medical resources," the captain repeated, as though tasting the words. The energy output registered was extraordinary. Sarah decided this was the perfect time to be, well, human. She wandered toward a glowing navigation crystal with exaggerated curiosity, tilting her head as though inspecting a piece of alien art. "Is this what you use for navigation? It's like someone grew a computer out of a chandelier. Gorgeous, but wow, not something I'd want to dust." The crew exchanged looks, their skin shifting in flickers of pale blue and white confusion. Through their bond, Sarah felt Lisa's spike of amused relief. This was good. Distract them. Keep them guessing. "Commander Chen," the captain said. His voice edged with formality. "We require a detailed log of all procedures conducted during your treatment." Sarah turned back, flashing a grin. "Oh, that'll be easy. Step 1. Don't die. Step 2. Hope the doctor's smarter than the poison. Step 3. Repeat steps 1 and 2 until it works. You know, classic human medicine." The captain's gaze narrowed. Lisa intervened, her tone professional. "Human cellular structure is highly resistant to external bioenergy manipulation. Extended energy expenditure was necessary to achieve stabilization. This accounts for the anomaly." "Extended," the captain repeated, still scrutinizing them. "Medical Command has requested psychological evaluations for both of you to ensure the treatment did not result in unintended emotional attachments." Sarah froze. Unintended emotional attachments. They were on the edge of discovery. Through the psychic link, she felt Lisa's fear spike sharp, cold, immediate. Sarah could almost feel the urge in Lisa to bolt, though her outward expression never wavered. Sarah stepped forward. "Wait, let me get this straight. I almost die from some alien toxin. Your doctor here pulls off a miracle, and now you think I'm going to, what, fall in love with her because she saved my life?" Her tone was incredulous, carrying just enough humor to make the words sting with disbelief. The captain's silence was unnerving. "Our concern," he said finally, "is that intensive Cross-species treatment can create artificial emotional bonds. It can cloud judgment. Sarah gave him a grin that was half charm, half defiance. Captain, I'm a career officer who spent 17 years dealing with aliens who thought humans were unpredictable lunatics. If I developed crushes on everyone who saved my life, I'd have a romantic history longer than your crew manifest. I respect Dr. Keerin's skill, but let's not get weird about it. The crew's pattern shifted again, this time with something that felt like unease giving way to curiosity. Through their bond, Sarah felt Lisa steady, her fear ebbing slightly as Sarah's words bought them room to breathe. Dr. Keerin, the captain said, now turning to her, how do you characterize your professional relationship with this human? Sarah felt Lisa's emotions tighten like a coiled spring. The doctor's voice was measured, precise. Lieutenant Commander Chen is an exemplary patient. She followed all medical directives, and her recovery demonstrates the effectiveness of Z-carry protocols when applied under emergency conditions. The captain studied them both. His silence was the kind that weighed on the air like gravity. Sarah forced herself to keep smiling. The longer she could keep them off balance with human unpredictability, the better their chances of hiding the truth. Finally, Catherine nodded. The psychological evaluation will begin within the hour. Both of you will submit to it. Sarah's stomach sank. A psychological evaluation would see through their connection in minutes. Through the bond, she felt Lisa's panic flaring like a siren. She didn't hesitate. She stepped closer to Lisa, closing the gap just enough that they both felt the calm that came with proximity. We'll handle it, she murmured under her breath, not just for Lisa but for herself. We'll make this work. But deep inside, Sarah knew the next hour would be a battle of wits and instincts, one they couldn't afford to lose. The psychological evaluation chamber was unnervingly quiet, its crystalline walls glowing with a soft, pulsing rhythm that seemed synths to Sarah's heartbeat. She sat in the center of the room, the hard surface beneath her feeling less like a chair and more like a living entity observing her every breath. The Z-carry behavioral specialist, tall, thin, with silver eyes even colder than Lisa's when she was in full medical mode, circled her like a predator. Sarah's instincts screamed trap. This wasn't just an evaluation. It was an interrogation, wrapped in pretty words. She could feel Lisa's unease through the bond, even though Lisa was in another room undergoing her own assessment. The sensation of distance was unsettling, like a faint pressure in her mind warning her she was too far from the energy thread they now shared. Every time the specialist leaned in, Sarah forced herself to breathe, to look unaffected, even as coffin. Her thoughts churned. Don't give them anything. Keep it weird. Keep it human. So, the specialist began, his voice a smooth cadence that carried a subtle note of suspicion. You experienced near-fatal trauma, and yet your psychological responses are atypical. You describe feelings of heightened awareness, emotional connectivity, and a sense of shared perception with Dr. Keerin. Are you certain these are not artificially induced bonds? Sarah raised an eyebrow. You mean, do I have Stockholm Syndrome? I think that's your polite way of asking if I'm irrationally crushing on my doctor because she saved my life. She leaned back, letting her tone drip with dry humor. No offense, but I'm not that easy. The specialist's patterns flickered, a sign of irritation if she was reading it right. We have observed in past cross-species encounters that intense medical intervention can create false attachments, emotional dependencies that— Oh, I get it, Sarah interrupted, flashing a grin that was equal parts confidence and mischief. But here's the thing about humans. We bond with people who pull us out of the fire. That's normal for us. Doesn't mean I'm writing bad poetry about her glowing purple skin or anything. She felt Lisa's distant spike of embarrassment through the bond, which made Sarah smirk even harder. You're welcome, Doc, she muttered under her breath, knowing Lisa would feel the tease. The specialist tilted his head. You display unusual humor for someone recently subjected to extreme physiological trauma. That's how we cope, Sarah said simply, her grin fading into a calm, serious tone. We laugh, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Before the specialist could press further, the walls of the chamber pulsed red. A deep alarm resonated through the shippa. Sound Sarah instinctively recognized as bad news. The evaluation was cut short by the crackling voice of the captain over the comms. All medical personnel to triage. Explosion in the engineering sector. Multiple critical injuries. Code Crimson. Sarah shot to her feet before the specialist could stop her. The connection with Lisa flared like a jolt of lightning fear, urgency, and a sharp thread of determination. Lisa was already running toward the medical bay. Sarah followed without hesitation. Whatever interrogation this was could wait. People were dying. The triage center was chaos when Sarah arrived. Smoke from the explosion had carried traces of volatile compounds, causing burns and energy contamination unlike anything she'd seen. 12 Z-Carry crew members lay on the floor, their luminous skin dimming, a terrifying sign of fading life. Medical drones whirred overhead, scanning and triaging. But the severity of the injuries was overwhelming. Lisa stood at the center of it all, her armor half-clasped, her silver eyes glowing with focus. She barked orders to the other medics in a tone that left no room for argument. Yet through the bond, Sarah felt her inner panic. There were too many patients, too much damage, and not enough time. Sarah, you should not be here, Lisa said sharply, glancing up for only a second. Your body is still. Save it, Sarah cut her off. She dropped to her knees beside the closest crew member, whose chest was rising in shallow gasps. We're linked, remember? If you're going in, I'm coming with you. Lisa hesitated. You don't know how? Then show me, Sarah snapped. She placed her hands over the injured alien's chest, and the moment her skin touched, the bond flared. Heat, energy, and something deeper coursed through her veins. For an instant, she felt Lisa's mind guiding her movements as if her own hands were being directed by invisible threads. The first surge of healing energy nearly knocked her back. It was like plunging her hands into a rushing river of fire and light. Sarah gritted her teeth and focused on Lisa's presence, steady, precise, unyielding. Together, they worked. Lisa's thoughts poured into her like a stream of instructions and instinct, while Sarah's own human intuition filled in gaps that Lisa hadn't considered. Adjust the energy flow, Sarah muttered, surprising herself, as she felt the damaged tissue repairing beneath her palms. There's a blockage like a crack in the bioenergy pathways. Redirect here. She didn't know how she knew, but she did. Lisa's brief flash of astonishment buzzed through the bond. The senior medical officer stopped mid-action, staring at them. Impossible, he whispered. No human should be able to channel our energy. Not impossible, Lisa said, her voice cold but steady as she moved to another patient. Unprecedented. They worked side by side, their movements synchronized, as though choreographed. Each patient they touched stabilized, their skin regaining its glow, their breathing evening out. Sarah's hands trembled, but every time she faltered, she felt Lisa's strength flow into her, bolstering her resolve. By the time they reached the final patient, the medical bay had fallen into stunned silence. The other doctors and medics stood frozen, watching as a human and a Z-Carry performed what looked less like medicine and more like a miracle. When the last patient's vitals stabilized, Sarah slumped back, her chest heaving, sweat dripping from her forehead. Lisa crouched beside her, gripping her shoulder. Her silver eyes burned with an intensity Sarah had never seen before. You felt it, didn't you? The bond. We're not just sharing energy anymore. Sarah nodded, swallowing hard. We were thinking together, moving together. Like we're one person split in two bodies. Lisa looked away for a moment, her skin darkening to a deep violet. Shade of fear mixed with awe. If Command sees this for what it truly is, they won't just study us, they'll dissect us. Sarah smirked despite her exhaustion. Then we'd better get good at lying. But deep down, she knew the truth. What they'd just done had changed everything. For both of them. The aftermath of the Engineering Bay disaster transformed the Healing Dawn from a vessel of quiet efficiency into a hive of whispers and astonishment. Rumors traveled faster than data streams. A human officer had stood beside a Z-carry healer and accomplished the impossible. Crew members stared as Sarah passed in the corridors, their glowing patterns flickering with confusion and awe. Some bowed their heads slightly, a Z-carry gesture of respect, while others avoided eye contact. As if unsure whether she was something to fear or revere, Sarah felt every single emotion. Not because she was observant, but because through the bond, the emotions of those around Lisa bled into her. It was disorienting, like standing in the middle of a storm of unspoken thoughts. Her newfound awareness had grown sharper with every hour since the triage event. She could feel Lisa's presence as if the doctor were an extension of her own body, every breath, every flicker of doubt, every ripple of determination. The medical command representative, Dr. Vothrel, arrived aboard the Healing Dawn 3 days. Later, he was older than Lisa, his skin a deep violet threaded with faint golden markings, a sign of long service. His silver eyes were sharper, colder than any Sarah had encountered. When he entered the medical bay, his gaze swept over her, like a scalpel. "Lieutenant Commander Chen," he said, voice smooth but carrying an edge. "You are the subject of considerable discussion." "Discussion," Sarah repeated, leaning against a counter. "That's one word for it. I'm guessing miracle and anomaly have been thrown around too?" Vothrel's gaze flicked briefly toward Lisa. "Dr. Keerin, I have reviewed the logs of the triage incident. Your energy expenditure was unprecedented. And this human," his eyes narrowed, "channeled Z-carry healing currents without training. Explain." Lisa's skin flickered with tightly controlled patterns of neutral blue, but Sarah could feel the torrent of anxiety beneath. "He suspects everything." Lisa's thoughts seemed to press against Sarah's mind. "Stay calm." Sarah stepped forward before Lisa could respond. "She didn't do anything wrong. I was dying, the ship was falling apart, and a lot of people would be corpses right now if she hadn't done what she did. Whatever weird thing is happening with me, it's my fault, not hers." "Your fault?" Vothrel tilted his head, studying Sarah like a scientist examining a dangerous experiment. "No, Lieutenant Commander, this is not a matter of blame. This is a matter of protocol. What occurred between you and Dr. Keerin during your treatment is not normal. It is forbidden." Sarah felt Lisa flinch, the word forbidden slicing through her like a blade. The bond between them pulsed hard, almost painfully, as if sharing the weight of that fear. Sarah straightened her shoulders. "If your idea of protocol is letting someone die when there's a chance to save them, then maybe your rules need an update." The room fell into silence. Lisa's skin rippled with a sudden shade of deep magenta embarrassment mixed with something Sarah couldn't quite name. Vothrel's expression tightened. "Your species is known for its defiance, but this is not a debate. The biosync procedure has not been used for centuries for a reason. It breeds dependency. It corrupts judgment." Sarah folded her arms. "Yeah, well, your judgment was pretty clear when you decided a human life wasn't worth bending the rules for. I'd say Dr. Keerin's corruption saved 12 lives, including mine." Lisa shot her a warning glance, but Sarah could feel something beneath it, a pulse of gratitude. Vothral considered them both for a long moment before speaking. The Council will want to see this for themselves. Until then, Dr. Keerin, you and your human patient will undergo observation. Together, I want to see the full extent of this bond. The following days were a blur of tests, probes, and endless observation. Sarah was wired into machines she didn't understand, her neural patterns compared against Lisa's bioenergy currents. Every result confirmed what they both already knew. Their connection wasn't fading, it was deepening. Neural pathways, energy flows, even their heartbeats were beginning to align. It wasn't just sharing emotions anymore, it was something bigger, something alive between them. One evening, after hours of exhausting tests, Sarah found Lisa alone in the observation chamber, staring at the glowing data streams that mapped their bond. Lisa's usually perfect posture was slightly slumped, her silver eyes reflecting exhaustion. Sarah approached, leaning on the console beside her. "You've been quiet," she said softly. Lisa's gaze lingered on the data for a moment before turning to her. "This connection, I don't know where it ends. I can feel your thoughts sometimes before you speak them. I can sense your heartbeat even when you're across the ship. It's as if part of you is inside me." Sarah smirked lightly. "Sounds like we're officially past small talk." Lisa didn't laugh. "This is serious. I don't know if we can undo this. And if we can't, what happens to us?" "To you?" Sarah tilted her head. "Maybe the better question is, what happens if we don't undo it? Maybe this isn't a mistake. Maybe it's something new." Lisa looked at her, and Sarah felt the full force of her emotions surge through the bond. Fear, yes, but also wonder, curiosity, and an undercurrent of something unspoken that made Sarah's chest tighten. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was electric. The ship's alarm shattered the moment. "Medical emergency. Deck 7. Radiation breach in containment sector. Multiple casualties." Lisa's eyes widened. "Not again." Sarah grabbed her arm, already moving toward the door. "If it's happening again, we handle it again, together." Deck 7 was worse than the last time. The radiation from the containment breach had left the injured Z-Carry crew writhing in pain, their energy patterns flickering weakly. Sarah and Lisa moved in sync without exchanging a word. The bond flared the moment their hands touched a patient's skin. Sarah could feel Lisa's techniques flowing through her like muscle memory, while her own instincts found pathways the alien protocols didn't account for. It was faster this time, more efficient, as if they'd become a single being split into two bodies. By the time the last patient stabilized, the room was silent. The other medical officers stared, no longer with suspicion but something close to reverence. Sarah felt it through Lisa's senses. Awe, disbelief, fear of what they might represent. Dr. Vothral stepped forward. His voice was quieter now, almost respectful. "You have achieved what our people believed impossible. The Council will not see this as a mistake. They will see it as a revolution." Sarah exchanged a glance with Lisa. Neither of them spoke. But through the bond, a single thought pulsed between them. "We just changed everything." The orbiting station above New Geneva shimmered like a halo of glass and metal against the void, its vast rings turning slowly, alive with traffic from 17 species. The Healing Dawn docked at its central hub under heightened security and greater attention than either Sarah or Lisa could have imagined. News of the human Z-Carry hybrid healers had spread beyond whispers. What started as an emergency on one ship had become the foundation of a medical revolution and a political storm. Sarah stood by the observation deck window, her breath fogging faintly against the chilled glass. She could feel the hum of the station beneath her boots, but even more vividly, she could feel Lisa. The doctor's presence in her mind had become constant, a warm, steady pulse like a second heartbeat. In the 6 weeks since the triage incident, their bond hadn't faded. It had evolved. Now, even in silence, Sarah knew Lisa's every mood, the flicker of anxiety in her chest, the quiet awe when she looked at Sarah, and the undercurrent of something both terrifying and comforting, a connection deeper than friendship, more intimate than anything Sarah had ever known. Lisa approached quietly, her silver eyes reflecting the distant starlight. She wore the formal medical robe of the Z-Carry, a garment that flowed like liquid metal, its pattern shifting with subtle gradients of color. "The Council is ready to see us," she said, her voice calm but carrying a tension Sarah could feel rippling beneath. "They have summoned both of us to demonstrate the biosync." Sarah crossed her arms, glancing at her. "And by demonstrate, I'm guessing they mean prove we're not dangerous freaks." Lisa's skin pulsed in a pattern Sarah recognized as both amusement and mild annoyance. "They want proof that our bond can be replicated safely, that it is not a threat to either species." "But," she hesitated, her gaze turning to the window, "they are also afraid." Sarah tilted her head. "Afraid of what?" "That we have become something else. Something they do not understand. Z-Carry medicine is built on control, precision, and boundaries. What we have defies all of those." Sarah smirked, though the weight of Lisa's words lingered. "Yeah. Well, humans are really good at breaking rules. Guess I rubbed off on you." Lisa looked at her, the faintest trace of a smile crossing her lips. "Perhaps." The council chamber was an amphitheater of light and sound, with crystalline structures rising like frozen waterfalls. Representatives from various species sat in suspended pods, their forms shifting between humanoid, insectoid, and shapes Sarah couldn't begin to describe. At the center stood the council chair, a massive Z-Carry elder named Fallon, his skin pattern so intricate they looked carved into stone. "Dr. Keerin," Fallon intoned, his voice like resonant chimes. "Lieutenant Commander Chen, you have created a precedent that challenges centuries of medical doctrine. We require a demonstration of your connection." Lisa stepped forward, her posture impeccable. "With your permission, we will heal one of your patients, a case deemed beyond recovery by conventional means." The council murmured, their voices blending into a strange chorus. A platform rose from the floor, carrying a frail alien form, a member of the Ethrani, a species with translucent skin and delicate, branching veins of light. The being's energy pattern flickered weakly, its life force slipping away. Sarah felt the tension from Lisa's spike, and without thinking, she reached for her hand. The bond flared instantly, flooding Sarah with both fear and resolve. "We've got this," she whispered, and for a moment, she felt Lisa's calm return like a tide coming in. They moved together, hands hovering over the Ethrani's chest. Energy surged between them, a luminous current that spilled into the air, wrapping the patient in threads of gold and violet light. Sarah felt Lisa's knowledge flow through her mind techniques, pathways, the subtle rhythms of alien biology, and she added her own instincts, guiding the energy to places Lisa hadn't considered. It was like dancing, their movements perfectly synchronized, their minds fused into one living purpose. Gasps rippled through the council as the Ethrani's light brightened, its breathing deepening, the fractures in its energy field knitting together. Within minutes, the impossible was done. The Ethrani opened its eyes, glowing like polished gems. "This is not medicine," one counselor whispered. "This is evolution." After the demonstration, the chamber was silent. Fallon's gaze fixed on Sarah and Lisa. "What you have shown. U.S. transcends the boundaries of species and discipline, but it also poses questions. If this bond spreads unchecked, will we lose the individual for the collective? Will healers abandon their duty to the galaxy for the bond with a single partner? Lisa spoke first, her voice calm but strong. When I saved Sarah, I did not know what would happen. I violated our laws because I believed one life was worth the risk. I do not regret it. What we have found is not weakness, but strength. Together we are capable of healing beyond anything either species could achieve alone. That is not something to fear, it is something to understand. Sarah stepped forward, her tone confident and edged with human defiance. You want to know if this bond makes us dangerous? It does. We're dangerous to the kind of thinking that lets people die because the rules say you can't care too much. If caring for someone, if connecting, is a risk, then maybe it's a risk worth taking. A murmur of agreement ran through the chamber, soft but growing. That night, back aboard the Healing Dawn, Sarah and Lisa stood on the observation deck as the station's lights spun like constellations beneath them. Through their bond, there was no need for words, but Sarah spoke anyway. You ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't ripped off that armor? She asked, her voice quiet. Lisa turned to her, the soft glow of the stars reflecting in her silver eyes. You would have died, and I would not have known what it means to feel this way. Sarah smiled faintly, stepping closer. Guess we're stuck with each other now. Lisa's skin shifted to a warm violet hue that Sarah had learned meant perfect contentment. Stuck, she said softly, or finally found. Sarah reached for her hand, and as their fingers intertwined, the bond pulsed with something brighter than healing, something alive and unbreakable. Whatever the future held, they would face it together.